Hello and welcome to the Late Late Show with me, Irish Tommy. Good to have you here, and hopefully we'll have a little chat about all things West Ham this evening. Not a huge amount to get through, by the way. And before anyone asks, yes, that is my actual background in my house, not one I've put up. And yes, that thing behind me right here is a cow. So before anyone asks, yes, you're not seeing things. Those are cows. My lighting is weird. I don't know why, but I'll put that on. I don't know if that helps, that lamp any bit. Hopefully you can see me well enough. So we're going to have a look and see who's in the house. Scott R, as always. What are the odds that Rice stays? Virtually zero, in my opinion. It's just not going to happen. I don't see how, the deal with Arsenal would collapse, or the deal with City potentially would collapse. I think both of these clubs really, really want him, and it's just a matter of time now. Unfortunately, Scott. Hammers Mikey's in the house. As Scott Orr said the same thing to my mate. Wouldn't be surprised if he stays another season due to the offers being shit coming in. Hope they're shit and hope he does stay. Well, it would certainly be interesting, wouldn't it? Because ultimately the club want to get what they want to get for him, and if all of the offers that come in are a little bit lowball and unacceptable to the club, that's going to make things very interesting. If it comes to the point where the clubs bidding for him decide they're not going to go any higher, that would be very interesting. It's not impossible that could happen. And it would be interesting mostly to see how Declan Rice would react. On the one hand, he loves West Ham and probably wouldn't be, devastated if he had stayed here next season. On the other hand, I think in his mind, he's making this move and now is his time and it's the right time, on the back of him lifting a trophy as club captain. And if it were to fall through, I hope he wouldn't get salty towards West Ham about it, and become unhappy, with the club itself. I think he's a pragmatic young man, and I doubt very much, given how much he does love the club and the affinity he has with the fans. I just don't see Declan as being the kind of player who would want us to get our pants pulled down on this deal. In that situation, he should be an awful lot more angry with the likes of Arsenal, particularly, because I'm sure they've been, whispering in his ear, "Oh, we're going to come get you. We're going to make you an Arsenal player." And then if they go fucking about to the point where we just bin them off, or they're not willing to pay what it's going to take to get him to Arsenal, I would perfectly understand if he was completely and utterly pissed off about that. Not with West Ham, but with Arsenal, particularly, and even Man City, perhaps, if they weren't willing to pony up. So, we do have some leverage here at the end of the day. He's still our player. We can trigger the contract extension. If we were not to sell him this summer, I don't think the club would mind. Certainly as fans wouldn't mind. So, we're not under massive pressure to sell Declan Rice right now. And as I say, if these clubs want him, they know what we need, they know what we're looking for, and just pony up. It's as simple as that. If you want him, you know what we value him at. Obviously, the talk has been, 120 million. We'll probably let him go a little less than that. Would I be surprised if we let him go for around the 100 million mark? No. Would I be disappointed? Not particularly. I think 100 million is still a very good amount of money to get for Rice. I don't think that's too low. I think it's a reasonable amount of money for all concerned. But I think City are going to get there. I think City are absolutely going to be willing to go 100 million on Rice. How that will be structured, I don't know, but they'll pay a lot of that in cash. I think very little of it would be in add-ons, for example. So I think perhaps if Arsenal were to say 80 million plus 20 in add-ons, or something like that, even 75 million, 25 in add-ons, it's very likely, if the add-ons are the right ones for us, that Man City will hit those add-ons, that we will get that money. I mean, they're just that good. So, I mean, we all laughed when Arsenal put that thing in if they win the Champions League and the Premier League, because that's not happening. We know we're never seeing that money. If Man City were to say, look, 75 and then 25, if we win the Premier League, and if, Declan makes whatever, 50 appearances, we'd be saying, yeah, both of those are going to be hit, no problem. So, that's a much better deal, where we're going to see all of the money. But I hope, obviously, I think like most of us, that he goes to City. I didn't particularly like the idea of him playing for Arsenal to begin with, but the way Arsenal have gone about this, for me, has been laughable. They've really lowballed on their offers, trying to leverage this supposed notion that Declan Rice only wants to play for Arsenal. I don't believe that's the case. I believe right now Declan Rice is talking to Man City. And if Man City can come to an agreement with West Ham, I believe he would choose Man City over Arsenal. It's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer. And particularly given that all of the talk we've heard from Declan Rice is that he wants trophies. He wants to win medals. And if you want to do that, and it's a choice between Man City and Arsenal, you go to City every time. And I find it very difficult to believe that Declan Rice is so enamored with living in London that he would join Arsenal over Man City. I just find that impossible to believe. I don't believe it at all. I don't think, given the choice of the two, that he would go with Arsenal because they're in London and because he wants to stay in London that badly. He's not moving to the moon. It's Manchester. It's a very short plane flight to get back down to London whenever he does want to come back down. So yeah, I think once a bid has been accepted by West Ham from Manchester City, I think Rice goes to City, and I'm really hoping that happens. I really am. Happy Hammerette is in the house. Did City make a bid today? Not that we're aware of, unless I've missed something. But as far as I'm aware, an official bid hasn't been made. But I do believe Man City have been in talks with both Declan Rice and West Ham. Now, whether anything has been agreed with Rice or West Ham, or if those negotiations are ongoing, I don't know. I'd imagine Rice's contract would be relatively quickly taken care of. I think agreement could be reached there pretty quickly between Rice and Man City. I think there would be a little bit more negotiating involved, probably between Man City and West Ham on the fee and the structure of that fee. But perhaps they have made an official bid to West Ham, and actually Hammers Mikey literally just said it here in the chat. Heard they did, but no one knows what it is yet. So they may have made an official bid, and we won't find out maybe until it gets leaked in the morning or something like that. And happy saying hi, Tom. How are you, Hammerette? It's great to see you back in the live chat. Always a pleasure to have you in with us. Paul Evans, evening, Tommy and all. Come on, you irons. And we've got Ellison Street. Who else will we see leave before the first game against Bournemouth? That's hard to say. Who will leave? It's hard to say. I mean, you can make a case for a number of players who may go, but there's nothing kind of solid. Nothing solid. For example, Souček. Possibilities Souček could move on. But again, that's a tough one to call. We just don't really know if Moyes is willing to move him on or not. We'll have to wait and see on the Souček one. There was also talk of perhaps Flynn Downs going to Southampton on loan, and we were taking Prowse. I don't know if that has any legs. Other reports are saying James Ward-Prowse would prefer a move to Fulham for some bizarre reason. If that's true, I don't know. It's hard to know with these reports what's correct and what's not. Obviously, look at the summertime is silly season for reporters. They need to talk about something, and the only thing really at the moment to talk about is the movement of players and managers. And I think if they've got nothing particularly solid or of any real interest to say, I think they'll take some liberties with the truth. So who knows what's going on there. There was talk as well that Benny could be moved on. That would be a strange one. I wouldn't understand why you would do that. I think it's very important for us that we have competition in as many positions as possible. And on the wings are actually the two positions that we just don't really have enough competition. There's no competition for Jared Bowen. And if you remember, this season, the first half of the season particularly, Jared was really poor. He was really poor. He was playing so poorly, and we just didn't really have much of an option out there to replace him. And so, Moyes just stuck with him week in, week out. The same is true on the left. I think Benny has nailed down that left wing spot. But I don't think he's, even now, I don't think he's Moyes' ideal player for that position. But because there's so little competition for him on that side, Fornell's form was poor last season, so he didn't really push Benny, for a place. And so I think we've got to bring in players who can play on the wings, but not sell the ones we've got. So even if we bring in someone like Harvey Barnes on that left-hand side, I still think we should keep Benny and say, look, two of you are there. You're just going to have to fight it out for a starting spot. And that's healthy. That's healthy competition. So hopefully Benrahma doesn't go. I don't think that is the case. I don't think that rumor has any legs. I don't particularly believe it. But again, it could be determined also by the transfer budget. So it could be a case once again of kind of one in, one out. And so that if David Moyes did land, say, Harvey Barnes, that perhaps then he would be willing to listen to offers for Benrahma to kind of balance the books there a bit, to offset what we paid for Barnes. It just depends on how healthy the transfer budget is and how many players Moyes believes he needs and how much they're going to cost. I think that will dictate a lot about who we move on. Also, we don't really know what the situation is with Antonio. It seems, I suspect he potentially wants to sling his hook. I don't really know what Moyes' feelings are about that podcast that he did before the Conference League final. I doubt very much if he was particularly pleased with it. Plus, it's getting to the point now where you wonder if next season is the season where Antonio drops off and just hits the wall, and just can't keep it going anymore because of his age. He is pushing on a bit. I think we certainly need someone younger up front. And speaking of up front, of course, the other elephant in the room is Gianluca Scamacca. Roma sniffing about strongly, but they want to do some kind of a loan deal. I don't know whether that would include an option to buy or an obligation to buy. How much would they be willing to pay for Scamacca? The Scamacca one's the most annoying one for me. We shouldn't be in this position. We spent a lot of money on him last season. He's the right age profile. Very, very good player, Scamacca. We haven't seen close to his best this season. For not just one reason. I mean, obviously there was the injury issue that he had, but also I think Moyes didn't just quite know how to get him involved enough in the team. The style of play didn't really suit him. He struggled to get. But we saw also from Scamacca last season what he is capable of. We saw that there's a lot of talent there, and so that's the one I'm really keeping my eye on. I know all the talk right now is about Declan Rice, and even my thumbnail was The Price is Rice. Just for those of you who remember the game show, The Price is Right. So just a little play on words. They're trying to be clever. But yeah, I've been thinking a lot about Scamacca as well. That's going to be an interesting one. But But to get back to Rice, actually, this did you hear about this potential Man United bid where they were going to offer us like £40 million plus Maguire and Elanga, and we thought Arsenal's bid was embarrassing. I mean that's fucking pathetic. Absolutely no way, no how should we be accepting £40 million plus player exchange unless those two players that are coming to us are seriously, seriously good. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I'm not a Harry Maguire hater. I think at West Ham he could do very well, but the question with Maguire is he surely will not move to any club without playing week in and week out. So can you really drop Zuma to the bench for Maguire? I wouldn't do it. Certainly, I think Zuma is an absolutely brilliant centre back. I wouldn't be dropping him for Maguire, and we can't really drop Aguerd for him either, because Harry Maguire is not a left-sided centre back. I don't recall him really playing on that side, and I just don't think that would work. I mean, the only way it would work is if Moyes switched to playing with three centre backs and wing backs. But he hasn't been inclined to do that, Moyes, and I don't particularly like the system, if I'm honest. I much prefer the 4-3-3 that we play. So I just don't see how Maguire being at West Ham would work anyway. Also, Elanga, I mean, give me a fucking break. I mean, what are they valuing Elanga at Man United and Maguire if they want to give us £40 million in cash? If you're talking about the 120 million, you're 80 million shy. And you think Maguire and Elanga are going to make up that 80 million quid? Absolutely no chance. So, yeah, it's hard to say, Alisson, who'll be gone from the squad, apart from the obvious that we already know are definites. So, obviously, Manu will be leaving. His contract runs until the 30th, I believe. So, after that, he'll officially have left West Ham. But who else remains to be seen, because we're going to need a squad next season. So, we're obviously going to have Premier League. We'll have both domestic cups. The Carabao Cup starts up pretty early in the season. I know we won't have to deal with FA Cup until January, but the Carabao Cup starts up pretty early. So we're going to need a squad, and we've got Europa League, which obviously we're going to want to go all out and see if we can win that. There'll be a lot of belief in the squad that we could maybe go and win that, given that we've won a trophy this season in Europe. And it's like, no matter what's going on in the Premier League with our form and our results, the players seem to just really believe that they can win in Europe, and they do. Scott is in here. Will we do anything before Steidman coming in? That would be the interesting one. I'd imagine we've already got our targets for this summer. Steedman, I don't know if it's Steedman or Steidman, but I don't call him Steedman. But Steedman coming in fresh, I don't know if he's going to be up to speed, really. I think it will probably be January transfer window before we see the kind of Steedman effect, if you like. So I doubt he would have too much input this summer. But again, we don't know how long the club have been talking to him, and how much he's told the club, or what players he might have already in mind. Whether he's told the club any of that about specific players that he's already kind of looked at and earmarked. Would he do that before he actually officially works for the club? Probably not. So I wouldn't imagine even if Steedman comes in this week, I don't know if we'd see too much impact from that in this summer's transfer window. But again, I don't know really a whole lot about the situation, so I could find that I'm a bit wrong on that. But that would just be my gut feeling on that one. You can't get legend status by leaving to another club. Not legend. No, absolutely not. Agree with Cockney Buccaneer in this. I don't think we will ever describe Declan Rice as a club legend. Maybe an icon or something like that, or something. But then I suppose there will be people who will also argue that he's, he captained West Ham to a major cup triumph. So is that enough? Can you achieve legend status? If you came through the academy, cut your teeth, as a West Ham, as a West Ham youngster in the Premier League, and then went on to captain the club, and went on to lead the club to a trophy. It just depends on how you view it. I think some people might make the argument that he could be considered a legend. Others, like Cockney Buccaneer, will say he can't be a legend because he left at 24 and maybe will spend probably more years at another club. But Cockney Buccaneer, I have to remind you as well, and myself actually, that Bobby Moore went to Fulham from West Ham. There's no doubting that Bobby Moore is a bona fide West Ham legend. So I know they're not the exact same circumstances, but Bobby Moore did leave West Ham and move to Fulham. So I don't know. But personally, I don't think I would describe Rice as a West Ham legend. Let me know what you think in the chat. Am I being harsh on him? Should we consider him a legend, given that he's lifted a major trophy for us? Not many have done that. Where do you see Souček go in Germany? Possibly Germany. I don't think he'll go back to Czech Republic. There could be another Premier League team that thinks he's ideal. I'm trying to think who might fancy a bit of Thomas Souček. You never know. Like, it could be someone. The new Bournemouth manager might think he needs just a bit of steel in the midfield. Maybe Bournemouth make an approach, or possibly could Luton Town look at it and say, geez, someone with the Premier League experience he has, and who might be able to plunder some goals from set pieces for us. Luton are going to need as many goals from as many different areas as possible. Could someone like Forest perhaps come in for him? It could be a club like that, perhaps in the Premier League, that would love to have a Thomas Souček. And Souček's not going to cost an arm and a leg. I'd imagine any club coming in for him could probably get him for around 20 million. I'll be honest, I think it's time to move Souček on. He's largely been excellent for us, not so much this season, but the previous couple of seasons, he's been really good. But I just don't see it going forward. I just think we need someone better in that position going forward. And that would be a good time to sell him because he's 28, so he's not over the hill. So we can still get a good return on him, around 20 million, I reckon, or so. I think clubs will be willing to pay 20 million for a Thomas Souček. And it's time to move him on. So, but where he goes, he'll either stay in the Premier League. I think it's more likely he'll probably stay in the Premier League because teams now in England are very, very familiar with him and they know what he can bring. And I think they'll look at a player like that and say, you know what, for 20 million, if they feel like he's the kind of player that they need, they'd certainly be willing to pay it. But Germany's a possibility, of course. He goes somewhere like that. Could be Belgium, somewhere maybe Belgium or somewhere like that, maybe even. Won't do anything until after the 30th because FFP. FFP, it depends. 30th of June with the FFP. Maybe. It depends on what happens. If City pony up a lot of money up front for Rice, that would free us up, I think, to go and spend. So Amber's Mike is saying, pay up or shut up. In other words, yeah, pay up or shut up. This is the frustrating thing with this Rice thing with Arsenal. Look, they knew all along what we wanted for him. It was no secret. The teams knew that we valued him around 120 million. Okay, fair enough. We might sell him for a bit less, but that's your kind of marker, right? And I understand that teams will always come in and want to negotiate a little bit, try and get the best deal that they can get for a player, and I've fine, no problem. We all understand that. But because they've come in so low, Arsenal, and then come in with a second bid which is low, um, they've kind of taken the piss and they've dragged this out, Arsenal, and this is why I hope Rice ends up at Man City. And that's the main reason I hope he ends up at City, because Arsenal could have had Declan Rice. Right now, Declan Rice could be an Arsenal player. It could be done and dusted. He could already have signed for Arsenal. But they got too comfortable thinking that no matter what happens, he's going to come and play for us. And so they thought they could just drag this thing out and mess about and try to force our hand. And so I really hope Man City come in with a very strong bid that we're happy with and that we accept, and that Rice signs for them. Because Arsenal will deserve it. They will absolutely deserve it. They've been taking the piss because they got it in their head Rice was going nowhere else. And so I hope it blows up in their fucking faces. Happy Emirates, and I think pretty much all the Hammers want him to go City than Arsenal. Absolutely. I've yet to see anybody say they'd rather see Rice go to Arsenal. How about Manchester United? Will they submit a bid or players in cash? I think they will. I think United will submit a bid. They may have already. We just don't know that they've officially submitted the bid. But if it's the bid we've been told, 40 million plus Maguire and Elanga, that's not even close. That's not going to cut it. It's just not. So they're going to have to do a lot better than that. It'll be cash time. I hope Moyes is one of the outgoings. I'll make a prediction. I think Moyes will be one of the outgoings this season. I don't think he'll see out his contract, if I'm honest. Trinihammer, our opening 6 games are a bit tough. Ish. They're not terrible. They're not terrible. I'm trying to think of all 6. I know we're away at Bournemouth, we're home to Chelsea and stuff like that. But look, you got to play these teams all season. At some point in the season, so I don't really mind way they come around. I don't get too caught up in it, who we play when. Do you know what I look at? First thing I look at, funnily enough, when the fixture list comes out, obviously it's what's our first game, right? So in this case, away at Bournemouth. But the first thing I look at is that Christmas New Year period. But because the games are coming really thick and fast, and then the FA Cup kind of jumps in there right after, and so I always wonder about, I hope we're not doing much travelling. And if you look at the Christmas and New Year's fixtures, they fall very, very kindly for us. I can't remember the exact games, but it's like we've got a couple at home, and then we've got an away game, which I think is away to Arsenal. So there's no travelling involved there, a London derby, and then our next game is at home again. So we've actually got no travelling to do over the Christmas and New Year period when the games are coming thick and fast, which I think is really helpful. You don't want to be, say, away to Bournemouth and then kind of away to Newcastle or something, and when the games are coming thick and fast, that's not doing you any favours whatsoever. So they've actually fallen very kindly for us in that period. Garino's in the house. Evening, Garino. How are you doing? Scott R. My worry is that we'll leave things until the last minute again. We have pre-season starting in 3 weeks in Australia. Yeah, that was a big letdown last season. I know we got really good players, and ultimately, I suppose the most important thing is that we get the right players. But ideally, you want to have almost all of your business done before pre-season. You want to get the players integrated into the team. You want them to have a full pre-season. You don't want them arriving after the season has started. Yeah, ideally that would be good. It's probably difficult to do. It would be lovely, if we could just get bang, 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 get all the players we want, job done. Unfortunately, transfer dealings are more complicated than that. You can. We have a history as well of chasing players for too long. Last summer the whole Lingard thing was just dragging on and on and on, and it was ridiculous. We should have just cut that one off very quickly. We should have literally gone to Lingard and said, "Here's our offer. This is what we'll pay you to come and play for West Ham." And if he was like humming and hawing or saying, "No, that's not enough," I'll say, "Right, okay, cheerio, bye. We're moving on to the next. That's our offer. Take it or leave it." We chase players sometimes for too long, trying to convince players that don't really want to be here. Is not a good idea, in my opinion. Richard B is in house. Evening, Father Tommy. Evening, Richard. Thanks for joining. Good to see you, mate. Stephen Noble. We need a new striker as a priority. Get the guy from Coventry. Yeah, we've been linked with him, obviously. Good player. I wouldn't mind it. Like I say, I haven't really seen enough of him to judge him, but you know, I hear good things about him, and he's certainly gettable. I mean, if we wanted to go get him, we could go get him. Skamaka's the kind of player who would do well with Barnes. Yeah, I think definitely. You know, if he just needs people up there with him. You know what I mean? Like he needs people close to him. You can't isolate Skamaka and expect too much out of him. But that's probably true of most strikers. I mean, most strikers probably don't flourish up top on their own, as Antonio says, you know, living off scraps. I don't many strikers want to be playing that kind of football, want to be put in that position. And the majority of strikers wouldn't score many goals that way. You know, I mean, they need to have opportunities created for them. They need players around them. And certainly, I think if you had a three-pronged attack of Barnes, Bowen, and Skamaka, and you were able to obviously get that midfield support coming up as well, Skamaka absolutely can flourish. We've seen him score all kinds of goals. He's strong in the air, he can score with his head. We've seen what a beautiful strike he has on him. He can score from long range. He can hit volleys. He can score close-range goals at the near post, which we've seen. He's got a really good first touch, good passer of the ball. He can interlink with other players, no problem. He's good hold-up play. You know, with his back to goal, he can hold the ball up, bring other teammates into play with little passes, and I think there's a huge potential there for Skamaka, as long as we can get players up and around him. We just weren't able to do that last season whatsoever. Yes, that was the one. The Price is Right. Leslie Crowther. There's a name. I couldn't remember who it was, but yeah, Leslie Crowther. Harry Maguire is a £25 million player. Yeah, I would rate Maguire around 30. You're pretty close there, but I would rate Maguire as around a £30 million player, to be completely honest. Stephen, Zuma's great, but look, that's the thing with Zuma. We know we're probably not going to get a full season out of him. And would it be great to have someone like Harry Maguire on the bench to deputise for him? Absolutely. But Maguire's not going to go from Man United to West Ham to deputise, to sit on the bench. I dropped Moyes for a competent manager. I'm not going to cut too much into it. I've done the Moyes thing like so much now. I'm just gonna leave it for now. I'm going to wait until next season before I start talking about Moyes again. I think Arsenal back to favourites with Sky, rumours of third bid. That's fine. They can say they're the favourites, and they can say there's a third bid coming, but the first two have been underwhelming. Hopefully this Man City interest and Man United interest is the kick up the arse that Arsenal need, and they'll actually get serious now and put in a proper fucking bid. I'd love to I'd take Emile Smith Rowe, you know. I think he's a really good player. No, I don't think he wants to come to West Ham. I don't think he would agree to be the make weight in that deal. But I really like Emile Smith Rowe. I would definitely take him and cash. We need younger players, not these old fellas welcome to the German director of football. Look, the German technical director is dragging on a bit, but apparently it is going to happen soon. So hopefully in the next few days that'll be rubber stamped. Definitely the age profile of the players coming in this season needs to be a bit younger than Harry Maguire, in my opinion. Also, Maguire's wages, it's enough for yeah. Maguire would be on big wages. He's not going to come to West Ham and take a big pay cut. Maguire has his Greek court case in February. Yeah, but I wouldn't be too fussed about that, to be completely honest. I think there's not much going to happen there. All players going, man. Does Moyes not realise that we need a bigger squad to compete with all our games coming up next season? All this, I love working with a small squad. Really boils my blood. Yeah, it's all right that you like working with a small squad until you get a spate of injuries, and then you're having to throw in kids. I foresee we'll be scrambling to get new players in. I suspect that too. I think we'll see the outs before we start seeing the ins. And as well, supposedly, we need the Rice money, which is bizarre. I mean, are you really telling me if we weren't selling Declan Rice, we'd have no transfer money? Like none for a Premier League team? Like, I don't buy that for a second. We should be out there buying players now. Some stories that we've done some kind of deal with Bayer Leverkusen, Jonathan Tah, perhaps. Jonathan Tah. No idea. Look, it's silly season, right? Every summer it happens, right? We'll be linked with about 200 players. And I'm not exaggerating. If someone was to keep a list of the players that we've been linked with, that we're interested in, by the end of the summer, I bet you it would be up around 200. So the vast majority of players that you see us linked with, there's either nothing in it or we get nowhere near signing him and we never make a bid. If you look at the end of the summer, look at the players we've actually made a bid for. It's going to be a handful of players. It's going to be nowhere near all these rumours. So when we get linked with all these people, I take it with a pinch of salt. It'll be like that the whole summer. This team will have players he's been looking at in his last job. Yes. But again, this is going to be the interesting dynamic because we know that David Moyes likes to be in control. Excuse me. We know Moyes likes to be in control of the comings and goings. So if this technical director comes in, he's got this list of players and he's kind of going through it with Moyes. Moyes could reject every last one of them. He could say, nah, don't fancy him. Yeah, don't fancy him. He's done it before with players that have turned out to be fantastic players where he's just saying, nah, not for me, don't fancy it. So it could be a very frustrating summer for Steven if he comes in. Terence Judge, once again, we're waiting to sign. It's ridiculous seeing that we have billionaire owners pull your finger out. Yeah, we need to start signing players. It's not. We know who our targets are. Surely our due diligence has been done. We know which players we're losing. We know which positions we're going to need to strengthen in. And surely we've got our list of players. Say, right, these are the guys we want. If that's the case, what are you waiting for? Just go get them. Rice is going to go. We're going to get the money for him. We just are. There's just too much interest in Rice for him not to be signed by somebody. Somebody's going to pony up. It's very likely either going to be Arsenal or Man City. One of them will pony up. So let's just go and get these players in that we need. Hammers Mikey, Stephen, we'll all end up with panic buys, just dilly-dallying in yet another window. With that, and Moyes technically and Epps management will be in the bottom three at Christmas. Christ, I hope that's not the case. I noticed actually the Arsenal fans and their threads have been saying the same thing about the Rice deal. They've been absolutely caning Edu for faffing about. A lot of them have been saying, will you just pony up? You know what it's going to be required to get him. If you want him that bad, just pony up and stop with these stupid offers because we're going to end up losing him. Just get him signed. Arsenal fans are going to lose it if Rice goes to City. They're going to absolutely lose it. And I think the club know that. Because all the talk has been Rice to Arsenal, Rice to Arsenal, Rice to Arsenal. And so the Arsenal fans have gotten their hopes up. They were virtually assuming Rice is going to be an Arsenal fan, an Arsenal player this summer. And if they end up losing him to City, after putting in these two pathetic bids. I think the Arsenal fans are going to go crazy, and the club have to know that. So I'd imagine if there's another bid coming in for Arsenal, I would imagine this one would have to be a very serious one. Richard B, the cat's making use of the window. Yeah, basically, I live out in the countryside, halfway up a mountain, so they've got nothing but countryside to run around in, and they basically come and go as they please. So, yeah, they've lived the life of Riley out here, it has to be said. Toby Sampson in the house. Evening, Toby. How you doing, mate? Let's scroll down, see what else is here. Okay, so Garino reckons we'll get Broja. Yeah, that would be an interesting one, Broja. See if we go back in for him. I know he's got that ACL, so I'm not sure how long that's going to keep him out, and I'm not sure if we want to be signing a player who's done his ACL. I'm not sure if that's a good idea. I don't know what the story is with ACLs after they heal. I mean, do they heal perfectly, and or is there a threat that they can go more easily after they've gone once? I think we need to be careful with the Broja deal, but certainly he's a player that Moyes really likes. And if Chelsea were willing to do a deal there, we could get it done. But I suspect Chelsea might want a bit too much money for him. Chelsea tend to overprice their players, and they still get the money for them. I don't know how they do it. Liverpool are the same. Jonathan Tah. Do you know what? I don't know really a whole lot about Jonathan Tah. I mean, everyone else seems to know who Jonathan Tah is and how good he is and what kind of player he is. I seem to be the only West Ham fan who doesn't really know anything about Jonathan Tah. But again, look, if it's a player we've earmarked and we really like and we can get him, all good and well. CM suits cover Rice. Yeah, we're going to need two. Have to move on from Souček, and we're going to need, obviously, a proper DM who's just going to sit. So, yeah, we're going to need, obviously, a midfield three, and we're going to need two of those signing this summer. Toby Sampson, the only thing we know for sure is we're going to get is the foot in the hump with the transfer rumours. Yeah, well, listen, don't take them too seriously, Toby, to be honest. This is just silly season. This is what happens every summer. We're going to be linked with 200 players. Arsenal made third bid. They have thrown in a packet of polos, half now, the other half. They win the Eurovision Song Contest from me and Drake. Yeah. That's how ridiculous the bid was, really, wasn't it? Happy Hamlet saying, well said, Tommy. So I get so far behind the chat. And I get to the comments and I'm not sure exactly which bit you're referring to. So do I, Tommy. Again, I forget what it is you're referring to. Sorry. I should keep up more with the chat, maybe. Put it up a bit quicker. Half their fans didn't even rate him until they were about to make an offer for him. Yeah, that's always the way with fans. You know, they'll tell you all season that he's bang average and he's overrated. And then when their club come in with an offer for him, all of a sudden, you know, they're all about it. And, you know, get it done, get Rice in, you know, and they're morons. Toby Sampson, David Moyes, Claret and Blue Army. We still are. He's still the manager, he's still the gaffer. So yes, Toby, we are still David Moyes, Claret and Blue Army. And I don't get the irony of him saying he ain't worth 50 million, that they're all desperate to sign him. Yeah, exactly. It's amazing how football fans will flip. You know, once their club starts to sign a player, that guy they said, "Oh, he's shit. What do you sign? We wouldn't want him." And then when they're trying to sign him, all of a sudden they get really, really pissed off if it doesn't happen. I always look at the last four fixtures. The eternal was some pessimist. Yeah. We're also home after our Europa matches. Actually, I didn't realise that, Carino. That's bloody good news. I didn't know we had the dates for our Europa matches, if I'm honest. When's the draw? Does anyone know what the date is for the draw? I believe it happens in July, I think. Is it July the draw happens? Really looking forward to the draw. That'll be a lot of fun. Arsenal fans have been so smug, saying Rice has already agreed to go and play for them. I would hate it. I'm praying Man City come in and singing next season, you never got Rice. Yeah, I really hope Man City come in and take him. What a mug, Lingard. Isn't it looking now? Nottingham Forest, mate. You're having a laugh. Yeah. Was it like no goals and no assists? Or something like that? Or it was something painfully bad. Ridiculous. Toby, it's all very serious here. It's a serious business, Toby. It's serious business. We've got to get this right. If Declan Rice isn't sold, how much do you think we need the transfer to improve the team to get in top half? To be honest, if we were to keep the current squad, I still think we've got a strong squad. I really do. I don't think there's any particular position where I think we're fucked. Yeah, if we kept the same squad, it's still a good squad. Let's be honest. Okay, everyone's going to be a little bit older, but it's still a very strong squad. You know, when you think about it. So, you know, if we could get Skamaka moving, get him scoring some goals. You know, if Benny and Bowen both have a good season, obviously Rice and Paqueta will be brilliant all season in midfield. I wouldn't want to play Souček there every week, but surely we can figure something else out from the squad. Maybe put Fornals in alongside Paqueta and Rice. That could work really well. So will we get in the top half? I don't think so. I don't think we'd be a top half team. I think we potentially could be if we didn't have European football. But no, not with Europa League, with the current squad, with nobody leaving. I think we'd finish maybe roughly where we did this season, 12th to 14th, maybe somewhere in there. Which, if we had do you know what? If we, whatever our squad's going to be next season, honestly, I just really, really want to see us have a right go at Europa League. I just really want to see us have a go. It is winnable, you know. I know we won't be as hot with the bookies as we were last season in the Conference League. We were absolutely among the hot favourites for the Conference League for obvious reasons last season. We won't be among the hot favourites for the Europa League. But we still have a shout. You know, it is a competition we're capable of going and winning. We've seen the talk that what the fuck's going on with UEFA and Juventus? That apparently, like, Juve have offered to pull out of the Conference League to placate UEFA over something. I didn't actually get in and read the article. I was just busy doing other things, but I saw something about. Do any of you know what that whole Juventus pulling out of the Conference League thing is? I have no idea what that's about. I wonder what originally we'll sit on next season. I don't think it'll be an English one. Yeah, I don't think it'll be an English team. I just after what happened last season, English teams seeing that, you know, him going to Forest and doing absolutely nothing, picking up his paycheck, doing stupid, silly fucking dances in the dressing room for TikTok. I doubt very much any English team wants any part of that. I think Lingard's going to have to go to like the MLS or be the next player who pisses off to Saudi Arabia or someplace. I don't think any English club's going to take a gamble on him again. And he's probably, you know, him and his ego, he probably still thinks he's worth 150 grand a week. You know, that's just the way he is. And no one's giving him that anymore. Massive eating to in the chat. Hope you're all well. We are. Thank you. Early Doors Football TV. Welcome. Tell me what your thoughts on Mitchell Hansen. Would you take a punt on a League One player? Do you know, I have to plead ignorance, Toby. I have to plead complete ignorance on Mitchell Hansen. I'm not aware of him. But would I take a punt on a League One player? Absolutely. If he's young, if he looks really talented, if he looks like he has a lot of potential, and obviously he's a League One player, you're not going to be, you know, splashing out big money. I mean, how much is a League One player going to cost? Even a talented one, you know, and those League One teams, they need money more than anything. So, you know, if we were to sign someone like him, I don't know what he would cost, 2 or 3 million or whatever. I mean, it's for a Premier League club, it's peanuts. So I'd have no problem taking a punt on a League One player. If it doesn't work out, who cares? Toby Mofta work tomorrow. Yeah, I have work tomorrow myself, so this is not going to be a long one tonight either. Can't see my good players joining Moyes still at the club. I don't know, Peter. I mean, we signed Scamacca last season. We signed Aguerd, signed Paqueta. I don't know. I think, the fact that we won the Conference League really helps. And it really helps that we won the Conference League and lifted a trophy. It did really help with our profile, I think, last season. I think the last 2 seasons of European football, we made the Europa League semi-final as well. And, players see that, on the continent. And I think a lot of players will think, Europa League again this next season with West Ham. Okay, they didn't have a particularly good league campaign last season, but, we can potentially have a better league campaign this time around and maybe go and win another trophy. I don't know. I think we can attract very good players. You have to remember as well, Peter, the leagues that these players potentially are coming from. So if you're a player with a kind of team in Ligue 1 in France, say, who finished 8th or 9th or 10th or something, and you're very talented and young, and why would you not move to West Ham from there? Why would you not move from the Belgian league to West Ham? There's a lot of players in a lot of leagues in Europe who are young and very talented, who'd love to come and play in the Premier League. And West Ham is absolutely, and the Premier League are a big step up from where they are right now. And so I wouldn't get too down on it. Okay, it might be more difficult to get kind of established players from one of the major leagues to come to play for West Ham. But other than that, I think we've got a lot of pull. Most leagues in Europe, nowhere near the Premier League. A lot of players would love to move to a Premier League club. So we do have a lot of options and a lot of pull in that regard, I think. English Yardy says, Tommy, to be honest, I'm fearful with Moyes still in charge. She needs to go ASAP for me. Why would you as a player want to play for Moyes? Yeah, look, I think a lot of players will. I don't want to be doom and gloom about it. And I rag on David Moyes a lot. I certainly did all last season. I think it's short-sighted to keep him as manager, and I don't think it's going to end well. I think we're going to pay for that next season. I'm not optimistic either, to be completely honest. I think he should have been given the golden handshake and said, look, we will never forget that you won us a trophy, but it's just time to move on. We need a manager with fresh ideas and a new approach, because the last 18 months domestically have been unacceptable. And I don't, to be honest, I don't expect it to magically turn around next season. I'm not optimistic either. I think it will prove to be folly to have kept him on going into next season. I hope I'm wrong, because I don't want to see West Ham fail. And if the manager is failing, it means we're failing. And I want us to do well in the league next season. I don't mean necessarily that we need to be, up in 5th and 6th all season or anything like that. But, we should be able to maintain ourselves in and around the top 10. We should be able to win enough games. We won 2 games. Was it 2 games away from home last season? That's... We won away at Villa. Was it an away at Bournemouth or something? And was it 2? I think 2 away games. Someone might say it was 3, but I think it was 2. And that's 2 away games out of 19. I mean, that's absolutely shocking. And to be honest, I really believe that winning the Conference League has kind of papered over those cracks for a lot of people, and a lot of fans, I think, are giddy. A bit too giddy with the Conference League win. Look, I'm as delighted as anyone that we won the Conference League. It was massive for us to win a trophy, absolutely massive. And I will genuinely be forever grateful to David Moyes that he brought a trophy to West Ham. But I think it's short-sighted to keep him on for next season. We can't just ignore the league. We can't. And I'm not sure why we would expect us to be much better in the Premier League next season. I just worry for next season, and I think he may actually have to suffer the ignominy of being sacked after winning as a trophy. I think it would have been better for him to ride off into the sunset with our thanks and pats on the back, rather than what might happen, what I suspect will happen before Christmas next season, is that he'll be basically hounded out because fans are just baying for him to be sacked. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. As much as I don't like the style of play, I really don't like watching us under Moyes. We play a horrible brand of football. It's just really ugly and frustrating to watch. But I hope I'm wrong. Look, I hope we turn it around next season and do really well in the league. And my fears are unfounded. But that's just what I think is coming, unfortunately. It's been 18 months now of pretty shite football and shite results. It's probably what we will do. Yeah. Another struggle in the league is on the cards. Yeah, as I just said, I think so. Junior Alvarez, nah, I've been in this business 25 years. Yeah, I know. To be honest, the Driftwood needs to hire the coach he wants. I'm dreading this season under Moyes. Yeah, I'm not optimistic either, as I said. Snazzy Azzy in the house. Welcome, brother. Good to see you. But Richard B, I don't think this was a warning shot. We need some evolution or we'll end up like Everton. Yeah. Arsenal's a rotten club. Yeah. Arsenal's a bit of a shambles, despite how well they did last season. Well, I like there's speculation too a lot about Arteta's future. I mean, if PSG are really serious about Arteta, I mean, that could spell huge trouble for Arsenal. Huge trouble. I mean, if you're Arteta, what would you do? Like, hand on heart. I know we don't like Arsenal as a club, and we find it actually quite hilarious. I'm going to close that window. I'm starting to get moths coming in. Kenny, you coming in? You staying out? Come on, bud. Come on. I have to rattle a packet of ham just to get him to come in. Come on, Kenny. Kenny. Come in, you shitbag. Sorry for this interlude, folks, but I need to get this little shitbag in. Come on, Kenny. You're an asshole, Kenny. Kenny, get in here. Kenny. I'm really sorry about this. Kenny, here. Come on. There you go, shitbag. Come in. Really sorry about that, but moths were starting to fly in, so I need to close the window. And Kenny didn't want to come in. So, but he's in now. I had to bait him with some ham. So, yeah. So just let me know in the comments. Like, forget about what we think about Arsenal. Just kill that moth. Ah, I got him. Just honest equation. If you're Arteta right now in his position at Arsenal, and PSG come calling, do you go? Because let's be honest, PSG is a bit of a shit show as well. Ligue 1 is not the Premier League. Arsenal will also be in the Champions League next season. It's a tough one. I don't know. Would you go? Would you go to PSG? That place is you could be thrown out and sacked from PSG before Christmas if things aren't going well. Would you risk it? Rice going to Arsenal sadly, but really, who cares? We're not on the bathroom. Yeah, look. Ultimately, all that matters is we get the notes. Single season coming in, and Moyes would have been informed that this bloke is coming in and was in charge. you want to stay, then you have to accept it and let him do his job. Yeah, well, I think Moyes was in a position where, with only 1 year left in his contract, where I think David Sullivan was in a kind of position of strength on this. I don't think Sullivan would have been overly pushed if Moyes had decided to resign because of it. Sullivan would have said, "Look, I'm bringing in a technical director," and yada yada yada. Moyes, to be honest, was not in a position of strength. He either had to just suck it up and accept it, or hand in his resignation. If he hands in his resignation, we don't have to pay him anything. There's no severance if he resigns, and so he wasn't really in a position to grumble. David Moyes, whether he likes it or not, Sullivan was in a position to bring him in. And not have to worry about really what Moyes thought about it. If Moyes walks, he walks. We're bringing a new manager. So Moyes is just... I doubt Moyes is particularly happy about it, but he's just had to suck it up, frankly. Sorry, I missed that. There we go. Big note to Broja for me. He has to play more. Yeah, it's the injury for me. I like Broja a lot. I think he's very talented. I think he's the kind of player, if you play him week in, week out, and he will hit his stride, and I think he'd be a really good player. And I just think he's the kind of player that actually will work in the Moyes system. There probably ain't too many players that can work in the Moyes system, but I suspect Broja is probably one of them. So I think that's why Moyes likes him. I think Moyes knows he can make that work. I personally hated it. Oh, John, Virgil, how are you, mate? Good to see you. I'll personally hate it if Rice goes to Arsenal. It makes sense to pick City for trophies, but if he wants to stay in London, just hope he goes up north. Yeah. Yeah, it would be a strange one for me if he prioritizes geography over trophies. I would find that a bit bizarre. With the best will in the world, even Declan Rice knows that he wins way more trophies playing for Man City than he does playing for Arsenal. Way more. So, I mean, it would be bizarre to me if he chose Arsenal for geography over going to Man City and winning lots of trophies. That would be astonishing to me, but especially as his whole spiel the entire time has been that he wants to leave West Ham because he wants to go and win trophies and get lots of medals. If he then goes to Arsenal for geographic reasons, I mean, that kind of spits in the face of everything he said, right? That it's all about trophies. Oh, sorry, I meant to read that out, Greeno. Broja would be alone with option. Madness was permanent deal after Zay. Yeah, I think that's probably what Sullivan would go for if he was looking to sign Broja from Chelsea. He would look for a loan with an option. No, Chelsea would probably demand a pretty penny for the loan deal. Chelsea do not loan players cheaply whatsoever. I'd imagine, to be honest, Chelsea would probably say, look, we want a £10 million loan fee for Broja. And then if you want to buy him at the end of the season, we'll take that £10 million off the overall price, whatever they value him at. But if you send him back, you're not getting that 10 million back. That was the loan fee. So there would also be an element of risk in loaning him. But I mean, look, if he came in and had one really, really good season and scored a lot of goals and was really good, would you care if it cost you 10 million to have him for that season? Would he be worth 10 million for a season if he was great? And to be honest, if he was great, then you'd probably just sign him permanently after that anyway. It might be worth doing. It certainly, I would be more comfortable with that than a permanent signing, given the ACL issue. We'll definitely be linked with Lukaku again at some point, inevitably. I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. Snazzy, we've got some royalty in this chat. Was Virgil. Virgil, yeah. Oh, John, go on, I said. I'm not royal, says he, I'm Lord. This is Gavin Cardy. Want to get that right? Yeah, Gavin Cardy. Alex Scott, but I'd take 2 seasons train to Perry standard. Yes, Alex Scott I would love. I'm really high on Alex Scott. I think he has the potential to be, like the next James Maddison. I'd love to bring him in. Bristol City would be looking for around 25 million for him. I'd be willing to do it. I'm a really big fan of Alex Scott. I think he's got so much talent. And we are heavily linked with him. According to reports, we're talking to Bristol City. So, fingers crossed we can make something happen there. I think we'd probably be more comfortable around the 20 million mark. But maybe we can do, a add-ons deal, 20 million, 5 in add-ons or something like that if he hits certain kind of markers. Who's the best footballer of you, Gary, Nick, and Nigel? I'll let him answer that. Someone said the draw was 1st of September. Okay, 1st of September. Let's go. I'm surprised it's that late. Yeah, I understand there are qualifiers, but yeah, that's it. Can they do the draw before the qualifiers are finished? Can you? I'm not sure. Maybe they can't actually, because there are probably some teams that can't play against each other because they're from the same country or something. Yeah, that's quite late in the day for the draw, actually. Well, Verge is picking himself. Shocker. I don't know. I think Rice leaves a big hole, not just quality. He was the leader of the pack. He does leave a big hole, and one that we won't be able to fill with a single player. So we're going to have to sign 2 midfielders. We're going to have to completely rejig that midfield. We're going to have to replace Souček, get a better player in than Souček, and get someone in Rice's position as well. And if we can get that right, we could have a superb midfield three. Build that midfield around Paqueta. Exactly. Last season signing came good end of season. Epic saying we need at least 3 quality players to even remotely competitive next season. Yeah, I wonder about the age profile as well. We've got a lot of players who are another year older. Cresswell. Is Emerson the plan for left back, or should we go out and get a young, talented left back, a young, talented right back, and sort those bloody positions out once and for all? Nothing against Cress or Emerson or Sofal. I know they can all be kind of really good on their day, but at some point, you've got to get some quality in those positions, some youth, players that can really get up and down that pitch for 90 minutes and contribute for 90 minutes. I'd love to see us bring in 2 young, talented fullbacks. That would be fantastic. Epic says, it's entirely possible that we could go down if this transfer window is a disaster. We flirted with it for a very long time this season. Well, last season, I'll say now. We flirted with it for a long, long time. It's not as comfortable as some people are making out. So, we finished in 14th. They make it sound like it was more comfortable than it was, and it wasn't. It was really hairy there for a long, long time, and we really were in genuine danger of the drop. Juventus bunch of crooks. Osasuna have been banned from the Conference League, apparently. Oh, really? I didn't know that. All these European teams are into some dodgy shit. Just hearing that City have offered us 75 million and 50 million in add-ons in 2 installments. That's 90 million. That's short. I wouldn't accept that bid. I wouldn't dissuade them either. I'd tell them, look, that's a good offer, and it's close. It's close. I would say to them, if we do 75 and 25, we could even do, say, 75 mil and 25 in 4 installments. Then I'd say you've got yourself a deal. That would be 100 million even. I think 100 million even for Rice would be very acceptable. I think that's a good deal for everybody involved. Juventus are reported to be negotiating with the UEFA to accept exclusion from the 23-24 Conference League in return for wiping the financial fair play slate clean. How does that work? Why would you do that if you're UEFA? I mean, realistically, UEFA want Juventus to be in the Conference League. It lends it an awful lot of credibility. To have a team like Juve in the Conference League is something UEFA should be very happy about. Why would you let them walk away from a competition you want them to be in just to help the prestige of the competition that's still growing as a competition, and then wipe the slate clean on their FFP? It makes absolutely no sense. Absolutely no sense. That's a bizarre. David Moyes needs to give number 10 some freedom like he did with Lingard. Paqueta needs targets in front of him. Agreed on both counts. It's apparently true about Arsenal reading a third bid for us. Yeah, we heard that earlier. Snazzy Azzy's saying, if we can get 80 million over 2 years and 20 million add-ons, we've got a fair deal. Yes, as I was saying, I think 80 and 20 or 75-25. I think that's fair enough. Yeah, I think that's reasonable for all involved. I think City are waiting for Arsenal's third bid and they'll match it. Yeah, Arsenal obviously look. They know what City's deal is now: 75 plus 15, which, as I say, is 90. So it'll be interesting to see what Arsenal come back with. Obviously, now it's gonna have to be like a serious, proper offer now. Gavin Carey says, I stand with Moyes, brilliant manager. Yeah, look, if you're happy with Moyes, it's all about opinions. Obviously, I'm aware, look, some people are going to be perfectly happy with the job Moyes is doing and want him to stay and believe he's a brilliant manager doing a brilliant job. And fair enough. It's all about opinions, isn't it? I'm not going to tell you you're wrong or that you're an idiot. I'm just going to say that I disagree. And, I've given my reasons, Rock on Tommy Steve is hammered, drunk, and in late. Good for you. I wish I was drunk and in late with a nice big dirty kebab in front of me, but I have to work in the morning. Almost got us relegated despite spending a fortune, and he's here only because we beat a bunch of European minnows. Ultimately, I'll be honest, that's how I feel about it. Winning the Conference League, obviously, look, again, I'm delighted that we won it. And I'm not scoffing at the fact that we've won a trophy. And it's a really decent trophy. It's a European trophy. And I'm absolutely delighted that we've won it. But, let's be honest, it's a trophy that we really should have been looking to go and win. When did we play in that competition, really? When did we come up against what you would call a proper team? I think only in the final. We played some shot. I mean, Larnaca, that's 16 Larnaca. It's a walkover. I mean, even Ghent, very limited team, better than Larnaca, but still, I mean, Ghent are they're not all that good. Even Alkmaar, for a Dutch team, they were tidy and they were pretty and they knocked the ball about well, but ultimately they were pretty clueless, really, in the final third. They never really threatened the whole pile, except for maybe the kind of last 10 minutes in the second leg, where we seemed to be under any kind of actual pressure, and that was about it, really, in the whole tie, despite having a huge amount of possession. So I think we only really played a kind of really decent side in the final. We need to be honest about these things and realistic. As much as we're delighted that we won it, it was a competition we really should be looking to go and win. So, looking to the future, Tommy, I'm feeling positive with Stephen coming in. His reputation for finding gems is really good, and I have a feeling that even if Moyes stays all season, Alonso next season. Yeah, let's hope he's got some players tucked away, and that Moyes doesn't poo-poo all those potential deals. Arteta seems loyal, so I can't see him jumping ship, but anything can happen, I suppose. Yeah, if I was advising Arteta, I would tell him not to join PSG. I think Arsenal's board, I think, would be very patient with Arteta. I think they know it's a project and that he has improved them massively already. I think he'll have time and backing at Arsenal. I don't think he'll get that at PSG. If it doesn't go well at PSG over the first few months, they'll kick him out. They don't care. The cat's as stubborn as Sullivan. Yeah, the cat was holding out for a deal, so I had to sweeten him up with a bit of ham. So he's a tough negotiator. Is Kenny. Reality TV, yeah, it was a bit. It was Scott, yeah, a bit of reality TV. I'd love to see a West Ham All or Nothing. Yeah, that would be amazing. I'd love to see that. The cat dithered like Moyes. He was absolutely dithering, yeah, absolutely. Steve Brown saying Arsenal shit show, Premier League bottlers, new trophy dodgers. Yeah, they've been dodging them for a while, Arsenal. It's unbelievable, like how arrogant their fucking fans are. They've got absolutely no reason for arrogance whatsoever. Paul Evans, you go. They wanted him. They all wanted him out the other season. The fans did, but the board backed him. And I think that's, if you're Arteta making that decision, I think you go by the fact that the board backed you when the fans were putting some pressure on for you to be sacked. So I think if I was Arteta, I'd be advising him to stay at Arsenal and not go to PSG. I'm telling you, he goes to PSG, he could be out of a job in January. You know, and then he's looking back thinking, oh, fucking hell, what did I do that for? This is interesting, if true. I didn't know that. Moyes asked for Steedman. Fucking please tell me that's not true. Please tell me this isn't true. Moyes wanted Steedman. Oh, Christ. So this is basically the same fucking shit we've had already. Steedman works for Moyes, basically, is what you're telling me. Not the other way around, which it should be. This is what happened when we brought Newman in. Newman came in as head of recruitment and fucking he was working for Moyes. It was completely the wrong way around. Now Newman's going to go and Moyes is getting Steedman in. So Steedman's going to work for Moyes, basically. Fuck this club if that's true. We're a joke. Arteta will stay at Arsenal as he wants to build on his progress from last season, so he won't be going to PSG. Yeah, I agree. I think he would turn down PSG. I actually do. I think Arteta will stay at Arsenal. They will draw PSG unless they see him get knocked out. LOL. That could happen, absolutely. Hated if Rice stays in Prem, needs to go overseas, or hate Panto villain. Arse won't win anything. He's not going to go overseas. Sorry, Steve, to burst your bubble. He's going to be in the Premier League next season. Why would Rice want to join a club where he's not picking up any silverware? City is guaranteed. Going for Arsenal is a two-sit pack and hardly any Champions League experience. Yeah, as I said earlier, just it would be bizarre to choose Arsenal over City, just for geographical reasons. When you've stated all along, it's about trophies for you. I just think Declan wants to go to the club with the youngest squad from the oldest. No, I don't think he'd go there because of the age profile of the team. City are going to keep buying in the best players in the world every season, every summer. They're going to go spend, and you know, you go to the best team in the world that are winning trophies for fun. Green Street Elites, how are you, bud? Good to see you. Bit late to the party, my friend. Alice got the respects to the Flynn Downs deal. I hope not. I hope not. I hope Flynn Downs just holds tight because, like I said, I don't think Moyes is going to be the West Ham manager come the final game of next season. I think he's going to get sacked next season. So if we have Downs and Alex Scott, perhaps the next manager who has a different philosophy on the game would view them a bit differently, or give them more of an opportunity. Joe says lie. I'm not sure what he's referring to. What's a lie? Maybe we can put an add-on if we win the Champions League on the Scott deal. Yeah, be brilliant. 5 million now and another 15 if we win the Champions League. Alex Scott had should stick to football, focus. I'm so not PCO such in ways that. Yeah. Rice is a great player, but he's not a leader. I disagree. I do think Rice is a leader. I think he really grew into the role as captain. I think he grew into it. And listen, leader isn't always just that. That leadership isn't just that. I think you leader is like lead by example. Leader is when the chips are down, you roll your sleeves up and you get stuck in and you drag the team forward. And I think in that sense, I think Rice does really well as a leader. He's not the most vocal, though, I'll give you that. The thing I don't want to see is us getting players like Maguire, Jada Player plays over, say, 25, 26, with the oldest squad now with that attitude. Yeah, I don't want to see us signing older players either, to be honest. Okay, I'm going to just scroll down here. So, Moisa, I would take... Alan Dunn saying I would take 80 million plus a talented player from City. No way would I take Phillips, same as all players. Yeah, I don't think Phillips wants to come here. He just wants to stay at City, apparently. And I don't think City are going to force him out the door. I think that last bid shows you. I think ideally City would have liked to have given us Cash and Phillips, but I think he's intimated that he wants to stay there and fight for his place. I think Pep will respect that and say, okay, fine, stay here, fight for your place that you're not going to get. And that's why City's bid is 75 plus the 15 in add-ons. Well, there was no player thrown in because I think, he respects that Phillips wants to just stay there and fight for his place, which is fair enough, We played some lovely counter-attack football during COVID season. We need to build a team that play like that. If Moyes is going to see out the season, faster at winners and a mobile centre forward. Yeah, if Moyes can get back to the kind of pacey counter-attacks from a couple of seasons back, he could redeem himself. We could have a very good season, but I don't see it personally. We've got Damien D'Amico is in there saying, I wouldn't want to disrupt the squad too much. Hope Moyes sticks to his policy of making signing players to improve the 11. I'd rather buy 2-3 signing players for lesser. Yeah, I completely agree, actually. I think you should always be looking to improve the first 11. Always. Because when you do it that way, when you look at it, I mean, you kind of kill two birds with one stone. Let's say you replace Thomas Souček with a better player. Souček drops to the bench. Let's say you don't sell him, right? Souček drops to the bench. So now you still have Souček to call upon if and when you need him, but you've improved his position. You've killed two birds with one stone. You don't have to buy a player for the bench because now Souček's on the bench. So he's the bench player. But you've signed. I would love to see us make, depending on how much money we've got, let's say we get the 100-odd million that we want for Rice, and we already have maybe 50 million, in the kitty. We might get other sales, by the way, but let's just say Rice only sold and 50 million that we had in the kitty for the summer. 150 million. I'd like, with that 150 million, to see us sign 4 players. 4 players who are absolute quality that will go straight into the team and improve 4 positions. That would be brilliant. I think that would be excellent. So I actually completely agree, Damien. I think that's a great shout. Paqueta in a free role in front of a very solid centre mid base. Yeah, again, completely agree with that. I'd love to see that kind of triangle. So we get a really good DM in there. We get another kind of player who's more kind of box to box, who can do the defensive stuff, but can also get forward on the ball. And then Paqueta in front of that, who's basically told, look, you've got a free role, just get on the ball as often as possible. Feel free to get forward in and around the box as often as possible, and let the other two, do whatever defensive work needs doing when we don't have the ball. Paqueta has the B's, F and E's. Yeah, he's an absolutely brilliant player. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, I'll tell you what, folks, there really isn't much else to talk about this evening. I just wanted to get into the potential ins and outs. This is interesting. Amrabat not going to Barca. Barca, however you pronounce it. Interesting. I still don't think we'll get him. I think Amrabat wants Champions League and very likely will have enough interest from Champions League clubs. So I just don't pin your hopes whatsoever on Amrabat. I just don't think it's happening. Yeah, so look, I'm going to leave it there. Like I say, I've got work in the morning, and we're heading towards an hour and a half now. Like I said, not a whole lot because there are no games. We've really only got transfer kind of talk to get into, and I don't want to just keep going around in circles, repeating myself either. But listen, thanks to everybody for all your comments, for joining, for watching. If you're watching it back, please give a like on the video. It just helps to make it more visible on YouTube. It'll show up in more people's kind of suggested viewing. So I'd really appreciate it if you can give me some likes for the show. And hopefully you can all join me again next Friday. We're back at 10 o'clock again. And I'd imagine and hope we're going to have quite a bit to talk about on the transfer front. Hopefully there will have been some movement in and out of the club. So we'll have a chat and see what we all think about any incomings and outgoings. But again, appreciate you all very much